You know, when you think about building like a physical structure, say, a massive towering skyscraper right in the middle of a major city,
Yeah.
there is this inherent expectation of just absolute rigor. I mean, you have gravity to contend with.
Right. Gravity, wind resistance.
Exactly. Wind resistance, the soil density, all the load-bearing physics. You don't just show up to an empty dirt lot with, a pile of steel beams and a couple of
And
hammers.
just hope it works out.
Right. Just sort of a vague idea of what you want it to look like, hoping for the best.
No, I mean, that would be a complete catastrophic failure before you even reached, like, the second floor.
Yeah.
You need actual architectural plans that have been deeply vetted by multiple professionals. You need structural engineering documents.
The blueprints.
Exactly. Blueprints that dictate exactly how many bolts go into, one specific joint and what grade of steel those bolts actually have to be. It's an entirely structured, highly visible process.
And I think that visibility is the key there. It's all meticulously mapped out and you can visibly see the progress, but then, you step into the world of digital infrastructure.
Right, which is completely different.
It really is. For a lot of people, that physical blueprint metaphor just, well, it completely falls apart.
It does.
We're suddenly looking at this completely invisible, sprawling landscape of data, routing protocols, cloud networks, and because we can't, physically touch a firewall or hold a database query in our hands.
Yeah, securing that infrastructure can feel, honestly, it can feel incredibly murky.
Very murky.
Is the absolute definition of muddy waters, especially if you don't have some sort of systematic guide.
Right.
Because human beings, we naturally like things to be tangible. We want things easily
That's
categorized.
true.
But cybersecurity often feels so abstract. And that leads to organizations essentially, building their digital skyscrapers without ever checking the soil first or without a coherent blueprint.
Which brings us to our mission today. Welcome, everyone, to the WeCyberYou Unlocked podcast.
Hello, everyone.
Before we get into the thick of today's architecture, I want to ask you a really quick favor. Please just hit that follow button on whatever app you're using right now to listen.
It really makes a huge difference.
It does. It takes 1 second, and it ensures you never miss a deep dive into these foundational concepts that basically keep our modern world spinning.
Yeah, it really is the best way to ensure you stay in the loop with the structural foundations that we analyze here.
Okay, so today, our mission for you is to decode what is arguably the most critical structural blueprint in the entire field of cybersecurity. We are talking about NIST Special Publication 853.
Or, as pretty much everyone in the industry calls it, just NIST 853.
Right, NIST 853. And this is essentially a comprehensive catalog of security and privacy controls, and it's designed specifically to protect information systems and sensitive data.
Yes.
Okay, let's unpack this. Where did this massive foundational document even come from? Who sat down and decided to write the building codes for the invisible digital world?
So it was developed by the National Institute of Standards and Technology.
Hence the NIST.
Right, the NIST.
Mm-hmm.
And their entire goal with this publication was to really help organizations systematically manage cybersecurity risks and, protect sensitive information.
Okay.
Because they recognized that the digital landscape was just becoming increasingly complex and dangerous, frankly.
Yeah, absolutely.
They wanted to take that murky, invisible environment we were just talking about and provide a structured, standardized methodology to actually secure it. They essentially wanted to write the architectural standards.
And that is exactly why this is so critical for you listening right now, because whether you are, say, an IT professional prepping for a major security meeting, or maybe a compliance officer.
Or just someone who's curious.
Exactly. Just an insanely curious learner trying to understand how the modern world actually keeps its secrets safe. Understanding this framework, it's like getting the master key to modern digital security.
It truly is the foundational text. I mean, if you want to know how security is actually implemented on a practical, granular level.
Right. Moving past the buzzwords.
Yes, past the buzzwords and into the actual mechanisms.
Yeah.
This catalog is exactly where you look.
Okay, so before we get into those mechanisms, the actual technical controls and the nuts and bolts of how it functions, I really want to establish the scale of this document.
Yeah, okay.
Who actually relies on NIST 853? Because if we are calling it the master blueprint, I imagine it's not just something, a small local startup downloads for a fun weekend project.
Oh, not at all, no. The primary users of NIST 853 are the really heavy hitters.
Okay.
We are talking about U.S. federal government agencies, massive defense contractors, critical infrastructure organizations.
So like power grids and stuff.
Exactly. Power grids, water treatment facilities, and of course large corporate enterprises that handle highly sensitive data.
Wow. Federal agencies and defense contractors. I mean, that carries some serious clout.
It really does.
It's not just some theoretical academic paper, right? It is actively securing state secrets.
What's fascinating here is how a single framework manages to span such a vast array of totally different organizations.
Yeah, how does that work?
Well, think about it.
Yeah.
You have the exact same control catalog being referenced to protect a military contractor's classified weapons database,
Right.
as you do to secure a large corporate enterprise's customer financial records, or even the operational technology of that water treatment facility we mentioned.
That is wild to think about, that the core DNA of the security is basically the same across all of those.
Yeah.
But it also makes you wonder, if it's used by the federal government and critical infrastructure, then this obviously isn't just a suggestion box. It is the absolute gold standard.
Definitely.
But if I am running a standard enterprise, maybe a large civilian business, say a few thousand employees, do I really need the exact same security manual as the Pentagon?
Right.
I mean, is this going to be totally overwhelming for a normal business?
That is a very common concern. And honestly, it makes complete sense to ask that, especially when you look at the sheer volume of the document.
It's massive, right?
It's huge. The framework includes hundreds of different security controls. So if you view it as this mandatory checklist where every single box must be ticked regardless of who you are,
Yeah.
then yes, it would absolutely crush a standard enterprise. It would be impossible.
Okay, so what's the catch?
However, its brilliant design lies in its modular nature.
Modular, meaning you don't necessarily have to build the 100-story skyscraper if you only need like a secure 3-story office building.
That is a great way to put it. The hundreds of controls are organized into specific categories, or what they call families, that address different aspects of cybersecurity.
Families, okay.
It is a comprehensive catalog, which means organizations can look at it and basically tailor the controls to their specific risks and compliance requirements.
So you pick and choose.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
A defense contractor might implement every single rigorous control in a specific family, right? While a civilian enterprise might select a much lighter baseline of controls from that exact same family.
That fits their reality.
Exactly. A baseline that fits their specific threat landscape.
Yeah.
You choose the armor that fits the battle you are actually fighting.
Okay, that makes it feel much more approachable. It's like a highly detailed menu, not a mandatory all-you-can-eat buffet where you are forced to consume everything on the table.
Right, exactly.
So let's move from who uses it to how it actually works. Let's walk right up to the front door of this framework and look at the first crucial control families.
Okay, let's do it.
The sources highlight two in particular right at the beginning. We've got identification and authentication, which is abbreviated as IA, and access control, which is abbreviated as AC.
Yes, IA and AC. These are really the absolute gatekeepers of any information system.
Okay.
Identification and authentication is all about verifying user identities, while access control is about managing user access to systems and data once those identities are actually verified.
Okay, let me try an analogy here to see if I am grasping the distinction. Because those two, they sound very similar at first glance, and I think people often conflate them.
They do, all the time.
So think of a highly exclusive VIP nightclub.
Okay, I like it.
Identification and authentication IA, that's the bouncer, checking your ID at the door. You hand over your driver's license. The bouncer looks at the picture, looks at your face, and verifies that you are, in fact, who you say you are.
Correct. You are establishing trust in the identity being presented.
Right. But just because you proved your identity doesn't mean you get to go literally everywhere in the building.
No, of course not.
So access control AC is the VIP wristband. The bouncer proved your identity, but the wristband determines whether you're allowed into the exclusive VIP lounge upstairs or if you are restricted to just, the main public dance floor.
The VIP wristband analogy works to a point. It really helps separate the two concepts. But let me add some necessary technical reality to it.
Okay, lay it on me.
In a physical club, once you have the wristband, you can pretty much roam freely in your designated area.
Yeah, you just walk around.
Well, in a digital environment governed by NIST 853, access control is much more rigorous than that. It's like having a dedicated bouncer standing at literally every single internal door inside the club.
Oh, wow.
And they are constantly checking that wristband every single time you try to turn a handle. You don't just get generalized access. Your access is restricted strictly to what you need for your specific role.
Ah, I see. So it's continuous. It's not just a one-time check at the perimeter and then you're free.
Exactly. It's continuous. And that highlights why NIST separates these two into distinct control families. They have to work together perfectly.
Right.
Verifying identity, the IA portion, is completely useless if that verified identity is then granted broad access to sensitive data they have absolutely no business seeing.
Right. If the front door bouncer lets me in, but the system just assumes I'm allowed in the manager's office because I made it past the front door, the whole system is broken.
And the reverse is true as well.
How so?
Well, you could have the most granular, perfectly mapped access control rules in the world, like perfect wristbands. But if your authentication is weak, an attacker can just steal a high-level manager's password, bypass the IA check entirely, and walk right in, inheriting all those high-level privileges.
Wow, okay.
You need the ironclad ID check at the door and the continuously verified wristband inside, working in tandem.
That distinction makes a lot of sense. They rely heavily on each other to form that perimeter. Okay, so we've checked the IDs, we've handed out the correct wristbands, and the users are inside the system.
Yep, they're in.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Once people are actually inside, how do organizations monitor the environment? I mean, how do they ensure the building itself is secure and that the pathways of communication are safe?
This is where we get into what I would call the nervous system of the framework.
The nervous system, okay.
Yeah, we are looking at three highly interconnected control families here. Configuration management, or CM, system and communications protection, or SC, and audit and accountability, which is AU.
CM, SC, and AU. Let's break those down, starting with the communications piece.
Sure. So System and Communications Protection, SC, is dedicated to protecting network communications.
Right.
Think about the sheer volume of data constantly moving back and forth across a large enterprise. I mean, internal emails, sensitive file transfers between departments, constant database queries.
Millions of them a day.
Exactly. SC controls ensure that this data is protected as it moves, frequently through strict encryption protocols, so that even if someone manages to intercept the data stream somehow, they can't actually read it.
So SC is basically securing the walkie-talkie channels that the security guards are using inside the club, making sure nobody is eavesdropping on the radio frequencies.
That's a great way to picture it. It secures the pathways.
Okay, and what about CM?
Then you have configuration management, CM. This is fundamentally about maintaining secure system configurations over the entire life cycle of the system.
Meaning how it's set up.
Right. When you first set up a server or a complex network, you configure it to be as secure as possible based on your NIST blueprint. You close unnecessary network ports, you remove default administrator passwords, you disable outdated software. CM ensures that this foundational setup actually remains secure over time.
Because things change, right? I hear the term configuration drift thrown around a lot in the IT world.
Yes.
That's when a system slowly becomes less secure over time because people make tiny changes, right?
Yes, exactly. Configuration drift is a massive vulnerability.
Yeah.
Imagine a stressed IT worker who temporarily opens a specific firewall port to troubleshoot some software issue at like 2:00 a.m. But then they forget to close it before going home.
Oh, no.
Right? That digital door is now just hanging wide open.
Oh.
So CM controls are the administrative and technical processes designed to basically prevent unauthorized changes like that.
Or to catch them.
Exactly. To immediately catch them when they happen and force the system back to its secure baseline.
It's constantly checking the building's structural integrity.
Yeah.
But the glue that holds all of this together, at least according to the sources, is audit and accountability. AU, logging and monitoring system activities.
It is the undeniable trail of breadcrumbs. AU controls mandate that organizations log system activities so they know exactly what happened, when it happened, and who did it.
Okay, hold on. I have to challenge this a bit.
Sure.
Logging literally everything. If I'm managing an enterprise network, we are talking about millions, maybe billions of routine digital events a day. Every click, every file opened, every successful login.
It's a lot of data.
That sounds like an absolute data storage nightmare. How does anyone actually find the bad guy in all that noise? I mean, why is AU so absolutely critical alongside something proactive like configuration management?
This raises an important question. And honestly, it is a pain point many organizations grapple with when they realize the sheer scale of storage and processing power required for comprehensive logging.
I can imagine.
That's a massive challenge. But you have to think about the alternative. Without AU, you are effectively flying blind in a dark room.
Because when something goes wrong, you have no way to trace it back.
Exactly. Let's go back to your configuration drift example.
The 2.0 AM open port.
Right. Imagine if a system configuration governed by CM is changed maliciously this time.
Okay.
An attacker breaches the perimeter and alters a firewall setting to allow them to quietly siphon out data.
Right.
Your CM tools might eventually throw an alert that a change occurred. But without the detailed historical audit logs provided by AU,
You wouldn't know anything else.
you have absolutely no idea who made the change, when they logged in, what specific terminal they used, or, and this is crucial, what else they touched while they were wandering around inside your network.
Ah, I see. So it's not just about the one event.
The audit logs are the only way to piece together the forensic narrative. They are the security camera footage of the digital world.
That makes perfect sense.
Without them, you just know the vault door was opened, but you have no picture of the burglar and absolutely no idea what they put in their bag before leaving. AU holds the system and the individual users accountable for every action.
Without the camera footage, you can't even begin to understand the scope of the damage. That makes AU absolutely essential no matter how much storage it takes.
It really is.
Okay, so we've built the walls with secure configurations, we've checked the IDs at the front door, we've handed out the verified wristbands, we've encrypted our internal radios, and we've set up the security cameras to log everything.
A very secure building.
But we all know that in cybersecurity, perfection is basically an illusion.
Unfortunately, yes.
The skyscraper can still catch fire. What happens when the alarms actually start ringing?
That is when you lean on the control families designed specifically for the worst-case scenarios. NIST 853 is highly pragmatic.
It expects things to break.
It absolutely expects failure. So it specifically mandates controls for risk assessment, or RA, incident response, which is IR, and contingency planning, CP.
RA, IR, and CP. Let's think about this chronologically, because reading through the source material, it really feels like a timeline of a disaster.
It is a timeline, yeah.
Let's use a hurricane analogy. Risk assessment RA is identifying and evaluating security risks. So, in our analogy, RA is looking at the weather forecast weeks in advance, analyzing the atmospheric data, and spotting the hurricane while it's still hundreds of miles offshore.
Perfect.
You are assessing the likelihood of it hitting your specific building and calculating what the structural damage might be.
Yes, RA is the proactive evaluation. In technical terms, it means continuously scanning your networks for new vulnerabilities, evaluating the threat landscape, and understanding exactly what assets you have that an attacker might actually want.
Because you can't protect what you haven't assessed.
Exactly. You can't protect what you don't know you have.
Right. Then the storm actually makes landfall. The breach is actively happening. That's incident response IR. This is responding to cybersecurity incidents. In our physical analogy, you are actively boarding up the windows as the wind picks up. You are deploying sandbags to hold back the water. You are managing the active chaos of the storm to minimize the immediate damage to your operations.
And translating that into the digital realm, incident response is highly technical and incredibly fast-paced.
I bet.
When you are boarding up the windows during a cyber attack, you might be actively severing a compromised database from the rest of your network to contain the infection.
Wow, just cutting it off.
Exactly. You might be globally revoking all user access tokens to freeze an attacker's lateral movement. IR controls dictate exactly how a security team detects, reports, and mitigates an active real-time threat.
You are fighting the fire.
You are fighting the fire right then and there.
And finally, the storm passes. The fire is out. But the power lines are down, the servers are offline, and the streets are flooded. That's contingency planning, CP.
The aftermath.
Right. This control family is all about ensuring systems can recover from disruptions. So CP is having that massive backup generator already fueled up and ready to go.
Yes.
It's having a stockpile of fresh water so your core business can still function the next morning, even though your primary infrastructure took a massive hit.
That analogy holds up perfectly. In a NIST framework, contingency planning means having off-site data backups that the attacker couldn't reach.
Okay.
It means having redundant network routing. So if one data center goes down, another seamlessly takes over. It's really about business continuity.
It's just keeping the lights on.
Exactly. And this timeline approach illustrates exactly why NIST 853 is so highly respected across the globe. It doesn't just tell you how to build a strong wall and passively hope it holds.
Right, because walls break.
Right. It forces organizations to implement rigorous administrative and technical controls for all three temporal phases of a disaster. Before the event, with risk assessment. During the frantic middle of the event, with incident response. And the long road after the event, with contingency planning.
It's a fully comprehensive life cycle. You aren't just reacting to bad news. You are preparing for it, fighting it systematically, and recovering from it, all under one unified framework.
And that is the true power of a catalog like this. It removes the panic and the guesswork from the worst-case scenarios.
Because you don't want to be guessing during a breach.
No, definitely not. When the breach happens, and in this environment, it is almost always a matter of when, not if.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be figuring out who to call or what to do. Because you follow the blueprint, you already have a documented, tested, and practiced plan for how to respond and how to get your critical systems back online.
It's honestly incredibly reassuring that a document with this level of foresight exists. We've covered a vast amount of ground today. We've talked about the heavy hitters who rely on this framework, the granular gatekeepers of access and authentication.
The nervous system.
Right, the complex nervous system of configuration and auditing, and that critical disaster recovery triad. So let's zoom out one last time. So what does this all mean?
Ultimately, the primary value of NIST 853 is that it provides the most detailed, exhaustively researched cybersecurity control framework available today.
The ultimate guide.
It really is. It provides a standardized language and a systematic approach for a problem that is inherently chaotic. It allows diverse organizations to clearly identify their specific security requirements, implement both the technical and administrative controls necessary to meet those requirements, actively manage their ongoing cybersecurity risk over time, and comply with strict government security standards.
It is the master checklist that brings order to the invisible chaos of the digital world.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we live in a world of profound information overload and constantly evolving, highly sophisticated cyber threats.
Yeah, it's pretty scary out there.
It is. Threat actors are getting smarter, and our internal networks are getting more complex by the day. In that environment, having a structured, comprehensive catalog is quite literally the only way to systematically secure information systems. You simply cannot rely on ad hoc security or gut feelings anymore. You need the architectural blueprint.
You definitely need the blueprint, and that brings us to the end of our exploration of NIST 853. But before we officially wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over, something to explore on your own as you navigate your own digital life or professional career.
Always good to leave them thinking.
Exactly. We just spent all this time detailing how NIST 853 provides such a flawless, incredibly robust blueprint for digital security. We established that massive U.S. federal agencies, defense contractors protecting classified data, and critical infrastructure hubs all use it to build their digital fortresses.
Yes, they do.
And yet, if you pay any attention to the news, you know that catastrophic, multi-million-dollar data breaches still happen to these very same highly regulated organizations on a regular basis. It's true.
So here's the question. Is the framework itself inherently flawed, unable to keep up with the speed of modern attackers? Or is the human element, the tired employee who falls for a clever phishing email, the overworked administrator who ignores a subtle warning log, the developer who leaves a default password in place?
Yeah.
Is the human element the one critical, unpredictable vulnerability that no catalog of controls can ever truly patch? It is something worth thinking about the next time you type in your own password to access your company's network.
A very sobering thought.
It really is. If you enjoyed this deep dive, please remember to visit WeCyberYou.com for more content exactly like this. We have a whole library of insights waiting for you there to help you understand the architecture of our connected lives.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Thank you so much for joining us today on the WeCyberYou Unlocked podcast. We absolutely love your curiosity and your dedication to learning the invisible mechanisms of our digital world. Until next time, stay secure and keep questioning the blueprint.